Her name is Yuan Xiang Wei, and today marks the 8th anniversary of her death, a day that cruelly coincides with her first husband's wedding to another woman. Her grave is a nameless mound on a deserted hill, a fact she only knows because someone told her. That someone is her second husband, Shi Jeshu, who now stands before her lonely grave, a cruel smirk on his face. He's come only to tell her she had a terrible taste in men, himself included. Trapped in the body of a black dog, Yuan Xiangwei can only snarl internally, thinking he's no good either, having sold her out for his position as governor. He continues his torment, informing her that the new emperor granted a general amnesty. Her mother has returned from exile, but she's blind in one eye, hard of hearing, and in failing health. With a final, vicious twist of the knife, he adds that her younger brother and sister both died in exile before walking away, leaving her to grapple with the devastating news. Alone again, she remembers the life she once had as Princess Duan, so refined she wouldn't drink jasmine tea unless it had more than 16 petals. Now she's reduced to gnawing on an apple left as an offering on her own grave. Suddenly, a gentle figure appears and she freezes. It's her third husband, Yuan Xiang the erudite. He softly chides the dog for eating offerings and kindly offers a piece of meat from his basket. Xiang Wei reflects that he was always nice to her, but it was a pity he likely just loved dogs, not her. When he asks if she wants to go down the mountain, she feels a flicker of hope. He places her gently in his basket, and she decides her destination. She wants to see her mother and the man getting married today, even for just a glance. But the city greets them with a scene of pure cruelty. A crowd has gathered to mock a disheveled old woman. Her mother, a fat pig of a man named Junai, yanks her mother's hair, jeering that it looks like weeds and demanding she draw a lewd picture of her own daughter, Princess Duan, bathing. Her mother, enraged, reminds him that Xiang Wei saved his life 8 years ago, but he scoffs that the unfaithful woman has no relation to him and shoves her violently to the ground. A torrent of rage consumes Xiang Wei as the memory floods back. He was a child who fell into the water, and when she tried to save him, he dragged her down with him. He never spoke of her sacrifice, and her body wasn't found for 10 days. Fueled by pure hatred for the life she lost trusting the wrong people, she launches herself at him, sinking her teeth into his arm. But she is just a dog. He kicks her away with contempt, and she collapses in a bloody heap. As her life fades, her only regret is that she couldn't live to see Rong Junshun's wedding day and spill blood on his happy marriage. Then darkness gives way to light as voices congratulate her on her 18th birthday. Yuan Xiangwei awakens to find herself in her old room, her mother alive and beautiful and her maids fussing over her. Looking in the mirror, she sees her own young, flawless face and the truth crashes down upon her. She has been reborn. A cold, calculated calm settles over her. She immediately asks her mother about a distant, pregnant cousin with the surname Zhu living in the mansion. With her mother's confirmation, Xiang Wei summons the couple. When they confirm their unborn son will be named Junai, she declares with chilling finality that she doesn't like the name. She offers the man's wife a fortune to pay off her gambling debts, with one simple condition: she must drink a bowl of high-quality abortifacient right there in front of her. As her delighted maid praises her for finally dealing with the troublesome relatives, Xiang Wei smiles darkly, promising there will be plenty more to be delighted about. Her revenge starts now by eliminating her enemy before he is even born. Her loyal maids then present her with a long scroll, a meticulously recorded list of every slight she ever suffered, 689 in total. They had waited so long for this day. She stares at the list, realizing her tragic death was not a single event, but the result of 1,000 cuts. She was naive, believing in the good of others while they plotted her downfall. The rumors of her ugliness, which forced her to hide behind a veil, were a malicious slander from within her own family. And worst of all was the man she gave her heart to, the one who promised her forever, only to be the one who chained her like an animal and sent her family to their ruin. To survive, she had to disfigure her own face, becoming a living demon. The painful memories bring tears to her eyes, but when her maids ask why she's crying, she smiles and says it's because she is happy to be so pretty again. The moment is shattered when a servant bursts in with news. The Princess Royal Yuan has arrived with a cohort of toy boys. A cup slips from Xiang Wei's hand, and a predatory smile spreads across her face. Her second revenge has just arrived. Outside, Yuan fumes that Xiang Wei callously gave away the boys she'd handpicked for her, ordering her servants to fetch the demure lady. But Xiang Wei makes her own entrance, appearing breathless and shoeless, proclaiming she ran as fast as she could the moment she heard Yuan was coming. Yuan is utterly stunned by her beauty, stammering that she heard Xiang Wei was so ugly she could make babies cry at night. Xiang Wei plays along with the rumors, adding that her parents supposedly hated her too. This throws Yuan into a panic, who wails that the rumors completely misled her before enveloping Xiang Wei in a hug. She explains she only brought the boys because she thought it would be hard for her to find a husband with her rumored appearance. Xiang Wei demurely replies that finding a man isn't a beauty contest, but a matter of taste. Yuan offers her the 7 men, then playfully limits her to choosing just 2. Xiang Wei's eyes gleam with purpose. One is enough. She walks among the veiled men, her attention caught by the scent of osmanthus. As she lifts the man's veil, revealing a handsome face that looks back at her in shock, recognizing her as the supposedly ugly princess. He willingly agrees to be hers, but it's all part of her plan. She feigns disgust, steps on his foot, and complains that he dislikes her. Yuan points out he is wrong, the best looking of the group, so his coldness is expected. When Xiang Wei suggests picking another, Rong quickly insists he doesn't dislike her. Leaning close, she whispers, asking if she heard him. He clenches his fist but denies it. Satisfied, Xiang Wei pulls his veil back down and instructs her maid to take him to her room. She ties a decorative rope onto his robe, whispering a promise that she will be the one to untie it herself when she returns that night. At Prince Yu's mansion, Yuan is swarmed by other young ladies for birthday banquet. They fawn over her looks and question the unusual seating arrangement, gossiping that Princess Ning must be looking for a husband. Their chatter quickly turns malicious as they mock Moore's older sister, Yuan Xiang Wei, calling her an old maid. They pry, asking Moore if her sister is truly as ugly as the butcher's wife. With a sweet smile that doesn't reach her eyes, Moore insists her sister is not ugly. The girls erupt in laughter, calling her too nice and concluding that no beautiful woman would hide her face. Moore internally smirks, confident that no one in the capital is more beautiful than she is, her mother's words echoing in her mind. Today, she would be the one to attract everyone's attention. But for Yuan Xiang Wei, this day holds a far darker memory. She pauses, bracing herself as she recalls her previous life, understanding this banquet was nothing but a trap. In her past life, she was publicly shamed for refusing the princess's toy boys. And when the guest of honor failed to appear, the crowd goaded her into revealing her face. It was her sister, Moore, who feigned concern and gave her an excuse to leave, only to steal the spotlight and host the rest of the banquet herself. Now, with the clarity of rebirth, Xiang Wei's eyes burn with cold fury. It was all a calculated scheme to ruin her. With grim determination, she strides forward. Her eyes land on Yuan Xiang, her third husband from her past life. She remembers him as a talented, kind man, a prize sought by countless women and a target of her sister's ambition. Defying all expectations, Xiang Wei raises her cup and toasts him directly, an act of audacity that leaves the other women fuming with jealousy. She coolly informs them that it is her banquet and she will toast whomever she pleases, earning an intrigued smile from Yuan Xiang. Later, as the banquet begins, her mother is incensed that the guest of honor is a no-show. But Xiang Wei knows this is just another part of the plot. As night falls, she pretends to be drunk and stumbles back to her room, ordering her maid to fetch shortbread. She pushes open the door only to find a handsome man, Rong Jinting, waiting on her bed. He was the toy she brought back today. A dangerous glint enters her eyes as she remembers she still has a score to settle. He explains he was asked to deliver a scroll, and with a seductive smile, she beckons him closer. He reluctantly approaches and hands it to her, but she ignores the scroll and yanks him into her arms. She whispers that she doesn't want the scroll, she wants him. He blushes furiously, caught completely off guard. This time, Xiang Wei vows she will not lose her heart. She will tease him, torture him, make him addicted to her, and then abandon him without a second thought. She leans in and asks if he wants her. He stammers that he does not. Great, she says with a chilling sweetness, me either, before turning and leaving him utterly baffled. The next morning, her father questions her recent behavior, embarrassing Moore and publicly humiliating a guest. Xiang Wei braces for a lecture on her cruelty, but is stunned when her parents declare she wasn't cruel enough and they wholeheartedly approve. They confess they had been worried she was too soft-hearted. Her mother then reveals that Moore's mother had manipulated the seating arrangements to favor her daughter. But they are confused as to why she let Mr. Zhu, an imperial relative, off so easily. A flashback reveals what truly transpired. When Zhu confronted her about her seat, she calmly dismantled his arguments about status by pointing out the hypocrisy within his own family. He was left speechless and humiliated. A feeling compounded when Princess Duan offered him a precious coral as a toy, treating him like a child. Enraged, Zhu declared he was not qualified to be her husband and stormed off. As he left, Xiang Wei offered a toast, giving him a deliberate, fleeting glimpse of her face beneath the veil. Back in the present, a maid bursts in with shocking news. Mr. Zhu has returned to propose marriage. He claims he fell in love at first sight and no longer cares about her status. Xiang Wei smirks, ordering the maid to check on Moore's reaction. The report comes back that Moore's servants are all weeping. With a final cold smile, Xiang Wei states that Mr. Zhu is not qualified to be her husband. An hour later, Zhu arrives for a meeting but is met by Rong Jinting instead. Rong introduces himself as a man who enjoys Her Highness's favor, stunning Zhu. He coldly informs Zhu that the princess is busy and sent him to be judged instead. His verdict is brutally simple: Zhu is not very good. And in fact, he's far worse than Rong himself. The arrogant Mr. Zhu proclaims his noble lineage, boasting of his family's 4 generations of status and his connection to the imperial concubine Zhu. But Rong is utterly unimpressed, coolly remarking that while he can't judge his family's nobility, he can certainly judge his height, viciously mocking that Zhu looks like he's sitting even when he's standing. Flustered and enraged, Zhu boasts about his academic achievements and his position as an imperial censor, desperately declaring his profound love for Her Highness. Rong simply covers his nose, cuttingly remarking that he'd heard censors talk a lot but didn't realize their breath was so foul. Utterly defeated by Rong's imposing aura, Zhu can only admit his loss and storm away from the garden. As he departs, Rong's attendant appears, delivering a sharp reminder from his master that he is to remember his identity as the princess's toy boy. Rong's expression remains glacial as he explains he drove Zhu away precisely so he wouldn't be a problem in the future. The attendant questions his supposed love for the princess, pointing out they've only met twice, but Rong coldly confirms he feels nothing for her. Relieved, the attendant explains his master was concerned about potential trouble from Yuan Xiang Wei, and then informs him that while he was occupied, Yuan Xiang Wei had already gone to meet Yan Qingli. Rong agrees that it's for the best if she's out of the mansion more often. That night, the princess wakes with a throbbing headache from 2 days of drinking, only to find a handsome man sitting on her bed, calmly reading a book. For a moment, she's stunned, a strange sense of déjà vu washing over her. She then remembers it's Rong, her new plaything. Annoyed, she resolves to throw him out, but as she rises, a scroll clatters to the floor. Rong explains it was delivered that morning while she was still away. Unfurling it, she finds a chilling message: Rong Jinting 16 hours. She recalls the previous day's scroll read 48 hours and a cold realization dawns on her. It's a countdown to his death. Her eyes narrow with morbid curiosity as she decides to wait and see if he truly dies. Putting on a charming facade, she thanks Rong for dealing with the bothersome Mr. Zhu and coyly mentions hearing that no one loves her more than he does. Prompting a faint blush from him, he quietly asks her not to disrobe every time she speaks. She ignores him, her smile turning seductive as she sheds her outer robe, asking if he truly understands the purpose of a toy boy. It isn't for company, she purrs, but for accompanying her in bed. She pushes him, but he remains unmoved. She tries again and again, growing more frustrated with his stoicism, until he calmly states that he sells his time, not his body. The princess internally fumes, remembering how in his past life he sold everything for his ambition. Changing tactics, she leans in close, whispering where they should do it while sitting, then asks if he wants her to sit on him, only to pull back with a smirk, threatening not to if he doesn't let her. In her mind, she scoffs, knowing the 16-hour countdown will end any moment. But as she loses her balance, his hand shoots out to steady her waist. And she can't help but laugh, calling him cute. She taunts him, saying she knew his true emotions would only surface when cornered, and warns that disobedient toys get devoured. At that exact moment, a guard calls out the hour and Rong suddenly grips his head, a wave of agony crashing over him. The princess watches, wondering if this is it, if he's really dying, a thought that brings both fear and a flicker of hope for her family's future. Rong is thrown into a vortex of fragmented memories from a past life. He recalls vowing to a woman named Jinting that he would overthrow the corrupt ruler for her, and her asking him to become the Princess Royal's toy boy, a request he couldn't refuse. He sees a promise broken to Yuan Zhen, hears a voice coldly telling him his useless love has been nipped in the bud, and watches as Xiang Wei is sent off in a wedding procession while onlookers call her lucky. He knows the truth, she wasn't lucky at all. He was deceived, and after her death by drowning, he was so broken he couldn't even shed a tear, only wishing that in the next life she would never have to meet him again. Ripped back to the present, he collapses in anguish, his eyes locking onto the princess with profound sorrow as he whispers that he regrets it. He regrets his wish for them to never meet again, and before she can process his words, he seizes her hand, pulling her down onto the bed. Overwhelmed with the pain and passion of a lifetime of regret, he declares he won't make the same mistakes and leans in to kiss her, whispering Xiang Wei's name. But she shoves her hand in his face, stopping him cold and reminding him she is a princess who demands obedience. His passion turns to sharp suspicion, and he demands to know if she met with Yan Qingli that day. He presses further, his voice laced with a raw jealousy she's never heard before, asking if she truly prefers men like him. She snaps that it's none of his business, reminding him of his place, but he grabs her wrist, his strength startling her. He pins her down, his voice a low growl, stating that first and foremost, he is a man. He forbids her from ever seeing Yan Qingli again, warning that if she does, he won't be able to hold himself back. Elsewhere, a rival lady listens with delight as her maid reports that the princess was driven from her own room by her toy boy and forced to sleep with a maid, looking completely disheveled. The lady smirks, convinced the princess is weak and pathetic. Fueled by past humiliations, she vows with cold fury that she will destroy her once and for all. A servant rushes in with urgent news. Lady Moore has arrived, catching Her Highness completely by surprise. Her maid advises caution, noting it's not Moore's style to do nothing after the previous night's events, but Yuan Xiang Wei simply scoffs, dismissing Moore as a mere loser she was worried wouldn't even show up. When Moore arrives, Xiang Wei feigns concern, remarking that she looks like she hasn't slept well. Moore dismisses it as nothing serious, but her sister's condescending smile reveals her true intentions. Xiang Wei announces she's here to teach Moore something, prompting Moore's maids to bristle with indignation at the audacity of a concubine's daughter lecturing the legal wife's daughter. Xiang Wei brings up the birthday banquet, accusing Moore of ruining everything and acting frivolously by rejecting her and drinking with a man. Moore plays innocent, asking how she was supposed to help. With a wry smile, she explains that since Xiang Wei's reputation for demureness is so well known, she sat in the front to help her greet all the guests. Xiang Wei is momentarily stunned by the clever retort, but quickly recovers, deciding to let it go due to her own good temper while seething internally that Moore is an ungrateful wretch. She presses on, claiming the news has spread and people are saying Moore isn't demure at all. Moore, knowing this is the exact trap her sister laid in her previous life, calmly asks what she should do. Xiang Wei's plan unfolds perfectly as she suggests attending the peony banquet in half a month to restore her image, certain it will be a grand stage for her sister's downfall. To her surprise, Moore agrees without a moment's hesitation. Later that night, Moore is startled to find the man from before standing in her room. He sighs dramatically, feigning heartache as he reminds her she promised he could sleep with her as her toy boy, calling her heartless for asking him to leave now. Utterly distressed, she orders him to get out, refusing to see him. But he grabs her wrist, his demeanor shifting as he asks a single question: is she going to the peony banquet? He reveals he knows because he saw her with Mr. Zhu at the birthday banquet and helped her send him away, his eyes filled with a cold jealousy as he demands to know how many more men she plans to mess with. Moore meets his gaze with fiery defiance, declaring that she has plans for the banquet and will show the whole world just how beautiful she is. He watches her for a moment, then turns and leaves without another word. Moore muses on the upcoming festival, a grand event for noblewomen held every 3 years, seeing it as the perfect opportunity to make a name for herself. She visits her friend, the Princess Royal, who is lounging lazily while being fed grapes. The princess has heard the rumors, and her maid adds a crucial detail: Moore won't be able to veil her face at the banquet. The princess explains that the Empress Dowager is hosting this year, and she's notoriously strict about rules, which means no disrespectfully veiled faces. Moore is unfazed, but the princess reveals the true depth of the trap. Xiang Wei has already presented the post to the Empress Dowager, ensuring Moore has no way to back out now. The princess is livid, realizing Xiang Wei deliberately set this up, but Moore simply smiles, asking what's the big deal if she breaks her rule of veiling her face. She declares she never wanted the reputation of a demure lady anyway, and if they think she's not, what can they do about it? The princess bursts with joy, promising to attend with her, dress her in the finest clothes, and lend her the most beautiful jewelry so everyone will see how unmatched her beauty is. Moore knows her sister is counting on her beauty turning against her, but she tells her friend to just sit back and watch the show. Back in her own residence, Xiang Wei is enraged to hear that the Princess Royal will accompany Moore to the banquet. She rushes to Moore's side, feigning panic and claiming she just heard the Empress Dowager forbids veils. She puts on a show of guilt, saying it's her fault for presenting the post so early and now Moore is trapped. When Moore remains silent, Xiang Wei internally panics and offers a solution. Since no one has seen Moore's face, she'll find a body double to pose as her. Moore calmly states she'll handle it, leaving Xiang Wei to stew in her anger over Moore's connection to the domineering Princess Royal. Moore thinks to herself how clever yet obvious her dear sister is. Later, the Princess Royal recalls Xiang Wei's past life, but more coldly remembers only her corpse. The princess seethes with rage, wanting Xiang Wei dead for her manipulative schemes. Moore's plan takes her to the Zuij Hotel to meet Mr. Yuan, while another woman waits tirelessly outside for him. Moore calmly enters and greets Mr. Yuan, immediately making a shocking proposal. She wants him to marry her. He politely refuses, explaining that marriage follows tradition. Moore remembers Yuan Qingli from her past life, the man she married who ultimately followed the emperor, and thinks marrying him now could simplify her future. Mr. Yuan, however, offers to grant her anything else she desires. Her eyes gleam with mischief as she makes her real request. She needs him to travel 25 kilometers to a garden and bring back 10 carts of the freshest flowers. He instantly understands she used the marriage proposal as a ploy to secure his help. Moore gives him an ultimatum: marry her or get the flowers, revealing she knows he can procure the best peonies from Sun's flower garden. After she leaves, his attendant asks why he agreed. Mr. Yuan stares into the distance, a thoughtful expression on his face, realizing she seems to know his secret. And far away, Moore smiles, fully aware that she does. At the peony banquet, Yuan more meticulously applies her makeup, demanding jasmine foundation to cover her haggard appearance. Her handmaiden tries to reassure her, saying no one in the capital is more beautiful than her, but Moore's face darkens at the mere suggestion of a rival. A cruel smile spreads across her lips as she dismisses the idea of being prettier, declaring that today, her rival will be so disgraced she'll never recover. Later, outside the venue, Moore complains about her elder sister's lateness, but puts on a sweet facade when she finally arrives, noting the crowd gathered to laugh at her sister, Princess Duaning's face. Moore joins in the mockery, laughing with her companion about the spectacle. Inside, she presents a veiled woman to the crowd, claiming her sister is too bashful to show her face until the Empress Dowager arrives. But this is all a carefully laid trap. Elsewhere, the true Yuan Xiang Wei walks with a silver-haired man who observes that her sister's trick was vicious, but fortunately she saw right through it. Xiang Wei explains she had no choice. If she didn't expose the trick, rumors of her supposed ugliness would have spiraled out of control. She refuses to blame herself, vowing that as long as she's here, nothing bad will happen. The man questions why she bought cheap flowers that would wither quickly, and she teasingly calls it a secret way to earn money. When he asks to know, she leans in close, joking that he'd have to marry her to find out, then pulls back laughing, telling him to simply watch her at the banquet today for the answer. Meanwhile, the Empress Dowager arrives and is told Yuan Hua will be late. Her gaze falls upon the veiled woman and her expression hardens, questioning if this is a show of disrespect. Moore's accomplice immediately shouts at the veiled imposter, demanding she remove her veil and apologize to Her Highness. But just as the trap is about to spring, a voice announces the arrival of the Princess Royal, who has brought Princess Duaning with her. Yuan Xiang Wei steps into the room, unveiled and radiant, leaving the entire assembly speechless at her grace and beauty. The guests are stunned, wondering who this beautiful princess could be. The Empress Dowager sternly asks for her name, and Xiang Wei introduces herself with a calm smile. Confusion erupts as Moore frantically insists the veiled woman is the real princess. The Princess Royal bursts out laughing, declaring they've all been fooled by a magnificent prank. The crowd murmurs, shocked that Princess Duaning is so beautiful, with some men regretting ever spreading rumors that she was ugly. Xiang Wei turns the tables, coolly asking who the girl with the veil is now that her own identity has been proven. Panic sets in and the veiled girl tries to flee, but Xiang Wei knows she can't let her escape, or Moore's scheme will remain unproven. Suddenly, a man in black sticks out his foot, tripping the imposter and sending her sprawling to the floor. Xiang Wei whirls around, confronting the man who claims he was focused on someone else and didn't see her, as she accuses him of tripping the woman on purpose. Seeing her plan crumble, Yuan Moore launches into a tearful, fabricated apology, claiming she only hired a substitute because she knew the Empress disliked veils and she was trying to help. Xiang Wei is unimpressed, coldly stating she is not Moore's scapegoat. She confronts Moore directly, reminding her of their conversation where Moore tried to persuade her not to come. Then Xiang Wei delivers the final blow, revealing that when Moore came to her room, she wasn't alone. The Princess Royal was there, drinking tea, and heard every single word of the plot. Moore's face drains of color as Xiang Wei rips the veil from the imposter, revealing a girl with freckles to the shocked onlookers. The crowd is disgusted by Moore's cruelty. Xiang Wei looks at the girl, remarking with cold sarcasm that she never knew she was considered so ugly in Moore's mind. The Empress Dowager, enraged by the deception, slams her hand on a table. She orders Yuan Moore to be confined for 3 months and to copy the women's commandments 100 times. As Moore faints and is carried away, the banquet officially begins, its theme being peonies all over the imperial city. The winner will be crowned the Peony Fairy, a title that historically leads to an excellent marriage. As Xiang Wei stands by a window, the silver-haired man joins her, while another man watches them from a distance, his eyes burning with jealousy. Xiang Wei reflects on her 3 goals for attending the banquet: to defeat Yuan Moore to make some money, and to find a very specific woman. She recalls her past life, remembering a brilliant female officer from the Data Party who specialized in impeaching corrupt officials with her mastery of arithmetic. Xiang Wei never encountered this woman before, but now in this new life, she must find her here at this very banquet. The peony banquet begins with a clear theme: peonies all over the imperial city, and the competition is fierce from the start. One lady boasts of her rare soup pot-sized peony, but Yuan Xiang Wei is unimpressed, thinking it's vulgar. Another brags that her flower's fragrance can spread through half the city, but again, Xiang Wei dismisses it as nothing special. Then, a new challenger steps up, presenting a meticulous, data-driven analysis of peony colors throughout the city. Concluding that to truly fill the city with peonies, they need specific proportions of red, yellow, and white flowers. Princess Duan is captivated by this data girl, whispering to Xiang Wei that she might be falling in love and wants to know her name. She learns the girl is Qin Dai, a relative of an imperial concubine. But Xiang Wei's mind is fixated on a single predatory thought: I want her. The crowd murmurs as Xiang Wei steps forward again, a confident smirk on her face as she announces her disagreement. She calmly points out two flaws in Qin Dai's logic. The percentages don't add up, and more importantly, who could possibly afford to fill the entire capital with peonies? With chilling certainty, she declares that she can. Just then, a servant rushes in with breaking news. Princess Duan has bought so many peonies that everyone in the city is getting a share. The other ladies are left speechless by her audacious generosity. Xiang Wei then approaches the stunned Qin Dai, presenting her with a single perfect flower, explaining it's a sign of respect for her talent and that all the flowers in the capital are less beautiful than she is. The Empress Dowager is thoroughly delighted, inviting Xiang Wei to visit her more often. As the voting is about to begin, a humbled Qin Dai withdraws from the competition, casting her vote for Princess Duan. The votes are cast, but as the count comes in, hushed whispers suggest the aggressive Miss Zhang must have bribed her way to the top. The result is a tie between Xiang Wei and Miss Zhang, with the final deciding vote belonging to Mr. Yuan. Without hesitation, he casts his vote for Princess Duan. Miss Zhang explodes in anger, accusing Xiang Wei of cheating, roaring that her servant saw Mr. Yuan buying peonies on a massive scale for her. The crowd gasps, realizing the two must have a relationship. Mr. Yuan, however, remains perfectly calm, explaining that the rules never forbade male guests from assisting, and that it was only logical for him to vote for the person he helped. All while a dark-haired man named Mr. Rong watches from the shadows. Xiang Wei wins the title of Peony Fairy, but her victory fuels the rage of her rivals. In a private room, one of the losing ladies fumes that the treacherous Xiang Wei stole a title meant for her, incensed by rumors that Mr. Yuan helped her win. Her attendant consoles her, reminding her that someone is even angrier than she is, mentioning a man who returned looking ready to kill. Realizing Xiang Wei has a man in her quarters, they decide to go see him. They find Mr. Rong in a courtyard he has utterly destroyed in his fury. The lady approaches him, offering her help for retaliation against Xiang Wei for hooking up with another man. Mr. Rong coldly tells her to go away, asking if she's finished copying the women's commandments. Left alone, his anger turns to self-loathing as he convinces himself that Xiang Wei's distance is his own fault, that he wasn't good enough and deserves this pain. Just then Xiang Wei appears, coolly observing the mess he's made of her courtyard. He sighs and calls her to him, then pulls her into a desperate, crushing embrace, demanding to know why she turned to Yuan Qingli for help instead of him. He insists he is far superior, capable of getting her anything she desires. Xiang Wei pushes him away, her voice laced with scorn as she asks what a mere toy boy in her courtyard could possibly offer. She turns to leave, ordering him to clean up the unpleasant mess. His fist clenches in silent rage, and as soon as she's gone, he unleashes his fury, smashing a stone lantern to pieces. In the days that follow, everyone praises Yuan Xiang Wei's brilliance and grace, but her rivals seethe with jealousy, with one crying to her mother about how Xiang Wei stole her thunder. Her mother comforts her with a cruel prediction, stating that Xiang Wei just spent a fortune and will soon be in financial trouble. This prediction isn't far from the truth, as Xiang Wei's own mother confronts her about spending 6,000 taels of silver, an amount far beyond their means. She asks if a fleeting reputation was worth such a cost, but Xiang Wei's ambition is far grander than anyone imagines. She calmly tells her mother that the rumors are wrong, declaring that her beauty and cleverness are fleeting. Her true goal is that in the future, when people think of her, only one description will come to mind: the wealthiest lady in the world. All while Mr. Rong's heartbroken question echoes in her mind. With 6,000 taels of silver on the table, Yuan Xiang Wei lays out her audacious plan to her mother, explaining that to create a new consumption pattern, one must first be willing to throw money away. She reveals her strategy is to sell a product at a low price, or even give it away for free, to instantly build a reputation. Her mother quickly grasps the brilliant logic. If people think of them first when buying flowers, they will eventually earn a fortune. The first 2,000 taels are for publicity, the next 2,000 are for sourcing goods. Her mother asks who she's waiting for, and with a confident smile, Xiang Wei says the one she's been expecting is about to arrive. A servant announces the arrival of a guest, and Xiang Wei welcomes Mr. Sun, the owner of Sun's flower garden, Sun Yuju. She wastes no time, telling him she knows his plan to fill a market gap by selling fresh-cut flowers, a novelty in this era. She lays out his entire business model for him, using low prices and quick delivery to build a customer base before monopolizing the market and raking in millions. Stunned by her foresight, Sun Yuju's eyes widen in disbelief as he accuses her of also being a time traveler. Xiang Wei simply claps, denying she's a traveler but confirming she knows he is. He is utterly baffled, unable to comprehend how an ancient person could possess such advanced thinking. She then reveals a secret from her past life. For 8 years, she was a dog and encountered many astonishing people, including time travelers like him. She vividly recalls finding him in his withered garden, a rope in his hand, ready to end his life in despair over his failures. In his final moments, he had fed his last meal to a wild dog, her, and unknowingly passed on his business idea, his golden finger, as his last words. Now in this new life, she knows many secrets of time travelers. She stands before him now, no longer a helpless dog, and tells him she is here to repay him for that meal and will not let him hang himself again. She points out that his plan has stalled for 20 years, proof he cannot succeed alone, and offers him a partnership. She knows why he came and is willing to help, but in return, he must help her realize her own ambitions. Meanwhile, at Huru court, a mother and daughter complain about having to collect their pay from Princess Consort Yu, sneering that Yuan Xiang Wei's title of peony fairy is a joke. Their scorn turns to shock when servants return overjoyed, announcing that Xiang Wei gave them all a 20% bonus. The mother can't believe it, knowing the estate's finances are tight, until a maid rushes in with news that Princess Duaning's shops are all closed because the staff were all needed to handle the overwhelming demand for peonies. The plan is a smashing success, with crowds eagerly awaiting the flower wagons. The woman from Huru court even shoves another person aside, calling her a poor idiot for not taking advantage of the deal. Elsewhere, Rong Jinting lingers inside the One Heart pastry shop, feeling a pang of disappointment that Xiang Wei hasn't visited. He chastises himself, thinking a princess can't always be with a toy boy, but resolves to take the initiative. Even as he blushes over how to properly fawn over his master, his thoughts are interrupted as he overhears the women from Huru court plotting against Xiang Wei. The mother seethes with jealousy, convinced Xiang Wei is using her beauty to get favors from Mr. Sun, and vowing to ensure she doesn't return safely from her celebration at Zuige Hotel. Rong Jinting's expression darkens. At the hotel, Xiang Wei discusses strategy with Sun Yuju, when suddenly chaos erupts outside with shouts of poisonous wasps. Sun Yuju leaps to protect her, urging her to safety. But as he turns, a masked assassin lunges forward. Xiang Wei realizes it's a trap, as a corrosive liquid is thrown directly at her face. A wave of despair washes over her as she recalls the constant pity from her past life over her ruined face, wondering if she's fated to be disfigured again. But in a flash, a figure shields her, pulling her into a protective embrace. She looks up into the eyes of Rong Jinting. He holds her tight, calmly telling the stunned assassin that Her Highness is fine and he may leave. As the attacker flees, Xiang Wei scrambles to check on Rong Jinting, frantically asking if he was hurt. She pulls back his sleeve and gasps in horror at the red burn on his pristine hand. She panics, remembering the legend of his perfect hands and wailing that now he'll never be able to get married. In a swift motion, Rong Jinting grabs her chin, his gaze intense, and demands to know when she will finally remember that he is her man. Rong Jinting leans in close, his voice a low growl as he demands to know when Yuan Xiang Wei will finally recall that he is her man. She panics internally, noticing the deep gash on his hand and realizing she'll be in deep trouble if the future regent is permanently scarred because of her. Quickly changing her tune, she apologizes profusely, which seems to soften him. A faint blush dusts his cheeks as he notes that at least she cares a little. To her complete surprise, he then presents a small box, asking if her favorite treat is Cayenne white pastry. As they descend the stairs, he gently warns her to be careful, a gesture that leaves his attendant, Mr. Sun, utterly baffled by how whipped his master has become. Xiang Wei smirks, pointedly asking Mr. Sun what's wrong and reminding him that this is the future regent. Rong Jinting immediately steps in, possessively declaring himself as Xiang Wei's husband and demanding to know who this man is. The terrified Mr. Sun stammers that he's just a humble servant from the flower garden running errands. Rong Jinting's smug grin makes Mr. Sun feel utterly defeated. Later in the privacy of their carriage, he asks if she's cold, but she just laughs, reminding him that only her hand is paralyzed. Spotting the pastries, she eagerly asks if she can have them all. With a mischievous glint in her eye, she picks one up and offers it to him, telling him to open his mouth. In her mind, she's concocting a plan. She'll use this pastry as a token of friendship, a way to make his sacrifice for her worthwhile. But beneath the act, suspicion churns within her. He willingly hurt himself to save her and somehow remembered her favorite pastry. It's all too strange. A dark thought takes root. Perhaps she has exposed herself, and this is all an elaborate ploy to gain her trust before he kills her. Her eyes widen in shock as he actually takes a bite, only to complain that it's too sweet. Undeterred, she happily eats the rest of the piece he just bit into, causing a deep blush to spread across his face. She hasn't had pastries like this in a very long time, not since her previous life when she was a dog, beaten and chased away from pastry shops. Looking at him with genuine emotion for the first time, she sincerely thanks him for not poisoning her. Rong Jinting reflects that it was worth getting injured just to see her act so unguarded, though he notes she's a little different from the Xiang Wei of his previous life. Elsewhere, Yuan smashes a vase in fury, her plans completely ruined. Her servant confirms that Xiang Wei is doting on Rong Jinting after he protected her, and Moore realizes she must strike first before Xiang Wei retaliates. A cruel smile spreads across her face as she decides to use her old tricks, planning to spread vicious rumors that very night. Later, as an attendant tries to apply medicine to his wound, Rong Jinting refuses, his gaze fixed on Xiang Wei as he insists that he wants her to do it. She reluctantly agrees, dabbing his wound as he watches her with a soft smile. The act triggers a painful memory of her past life when her disfigured face made her a recluse. She remembers sneaking out for food, only for a gust of wind to reveal her scars, causing a vendor to scream in terror and drop a bowl of boiling soup all over her. The memory of that searing pain and blinding hatred floods back. But now everything is different. Her face is healed, and her enemy was the one injured while protecting her. As she finishes wrapping his hand, she thinks to herself that every dog has its day. When he winces, she admits she is not very good at this. Later, her maid Chun Jiao asks why she was so rough. Xiang Wei coolly replies that he said it didn't hurt. Chun Jiao sighs, explaining he only said that because he wanted her to be the one to care for him. She reminds Xiang Wei that Rong Jinting has done nothing wrong in this life and loves her deeply, begging her not to be blinded by past hatred. The question hangs in the air, does he really love me? Xiang Wei concludes she can't afford his love. She just wishes he'd leave her alone, but maybe, just maybe, she can hate him a little less. The next morning, her sister's plan is in full motion. Vicious rumors are spreading that Xiang Wei's beauty is the result of demonic magic, started by a woman claiming to be her former wet nurse who says she was so ugly as a child that dogs would bark at her. While her maid panics, Xiang Wei simply laughs at her sister's desperation, declaring that this is exactly what she wanted. She orders her carriage prepared for a visit to Mr. Yuan, cryptically stating it's time for Mr. Sun to thank her for solving his lifelong problem. Meanwhile, Rong Jinting is informed that Xiang Wei ordered him a special breakfast but left an hour ago to dine with Mr. Yuan. The news shatters his calm and he seethes with jealousy, clenching his fist as he mutters her name, calling her heartless. The terrified servant retreats, thinking that he has indeed won Her Highness's heart and is now becoming unbearably bossy. At Zuage Hotel, Xiang Wei tries to convince a reluctant Mr. Yuan to host a birthday banquet. She slyly suggests it's the perfect opportunity to prove the rumors about her demonic beauty are false. He sighs, admitting she's being very honest about her intentions to use him. He agrees on one condition, no bloodshed. He then astounds her by revealing he already knows Yuan Moore is behind her troubles, explaining that the only person in the world he can't seem to figure out is her. She playfully presents her little book of grudges. Before her expression turns serious, she explains that her sister's actions have escalated from mere rumors to an attempt on her life, leaving her no choice but to get rid of her. 3 days later, finely dressed ladies arrive for the banquet, only to find themselves at the base of a towering mountain. Their outrage grows when a guard informs them that due to recent rain, the slippery steps are too dangerous for servants to carry them up. Mr. Yun's message is clear: if they don't wish to climb, they are free to go home. While the other ladies struggle up the grueling mountain path, Rong Jinting smugly announces she's going ahead, mocking their weakness. But for Yuan Xiang Wei, this is a test from Mr. Yuan, and she's determined to pass it. Her resolve is immediately rewarded when an attendant appears, explaining that Mr. Yuan sent him to escort her via a shortcut. 4 hours later, the exhausted ladies are fanning themselves at an outdoor banquet, suffering under the sun. Yuan Xiang Wei quietly asks Mr. Yuan if this was his doing, and he calmly confirms it was a punishment for their rumor-mongering. A smile plays on her lips, his cruelty delights her, and she notes with satisfaction that he's already blushing from her praise. Seeing her opportunity, she decides to press her advantage and follow up her victory. But her plans are interrupted by the arrival of Rong Jinting, who announces she's brought a new story for the birthday girl. Mr. Yuan warns her to be careful, but she launches into a bizarre tale about a pimple-faced toad monster who stole beauty from a tear. A story clearly aimed at Yuan Xiang Wei. Listening in the crowd, a veiled woman named Yuan Moore clenches her fists, seething with a private rage as the story unfolds. Rong Jinting finishes with a flourish, declaring that beneath the stolen beauty, the woman is still just a pimply toad. To everyone's astonishment, Yuan Xiang Wei bursts into tears. She masterfully turns the tables, claiming the story reminds her of her own sad past when she was ugly. With the entire party captivated, she winks at confused Mr. Yuan and accidentally lets slip that she used a secret method to become beautiful. The ladies instantly forget the malicious story and clamor to buy this secret from her. Enraged that her plan has backfired, Rong Jinting screams that Yuan Xiang Wei is lying and points to the veiled woman, shouting that Yuan Moore was her source. In a fit of fury, she rips the veil from Yuan Moore's head, revealing a face covered in horrific blemishes, causing the crowd to recoil in terror. The humiliated Yuan Moore can only beg people to stop looking at her ruined face. Later that night, Yuan Moore sobs at home, blaming Yuan Xiang Wei for her misfortune and her ruined chances with Yan Qingli. Her mother's maid suggests buying the princess's peonies, which are now rumored to grant beauty, but this only sends Yuan more into a deeper rage, vowing to confront her rival. Meanwhile, Yuan Xiang Wei has a private dinner with Mr. Yuan, presenting him with longevity noodles as thanks for helping her create a market for her peonies. He praises her cleverness as a businesswoman, before his tone turns serious, asking if she was responsible for what happened to Yuan Moore's face. Yuan Wei's expression hardens as she states that for all his wisdom, he doesn't truly know her. She reminds him of his gentleness and how it gives girls false hope, warning him not to be so kind if he has no intention of marrying her. Slamming her cup down, she declares that Yuan Moore's fate has nothing to do with her and wishes him a happy birthday before leaving. Mr. Yuan calls out, concerned she hasn't eaten, and tells her to take the dishes with her. After she's gone, he sits alone, only to discover she left the noodles behind. Just then, his subordinate appears with a mysterious letter found in the kitchen, and Mr. Yuan's face darkens as he reads its contents. In her carriage, Yuan Xiang Wei confesses to her maid that she almost fell for Mr. Yuan's kindness again. Deciding to eat the food he packed, she takes a bite only to spit it out in disgust. It's far too sour. A horrifying realization dawns on her. This food was prepared by the other person who came up the mountain, her own attendant. She immediately orders the carriage to stop and demands he be brought to her. She confronts the man, her voice cold, as she asks what he did to Yuan Moore's face. He replies with chilling calm that the woman touched something she shouldn't have, so he poisoned her, disfiguring her face for Yuan Xiang Wei's sake. Princess Duan coldly demands to know what wrong Jinting did to Yuan Moore's face, her eyes flashing with a chilling light as she explains that the girl shouldn't have touched what wasn't hers, adding that being poisoned and disfigured is a fitting end. With a sharp command for him to turn his back, she lashes out with a whip, a mischievous and drunken grin spreading across her face as she declares him her toy boy. She drunkenly lectures him for acting without her consent, insisting he needs to be taught a lesson for his impertinence. Rong Jinting can only stare, muttering that she is clearly drunk, but she furiously denies it, puffing her cheeks out in childish anger. In a moment of clarity, she admits that while she despises Yuan Moore, she wouldn't stoop to destroying a woman's face, calling such an act shameful. But then her logic twists, reasoning that since Yuan Moore would do such a thing, she must respond in kind, scoffing at the idea of returning good for evil. She boasts of having a million ways to make the woman regret her actions before turning her ire back on Rong Jinting, threatening to lash him again for staring. Terrified, he quickly apologizes, meekly admitting that he was wrong. The next morning, the princess wakes with a scream of pure horror, the memories of her drunken rampage flooding back. She cringes, recalling how she forced him to admit his own wrongdoing when it was so obviously her fault. Putting the embarrassment aside, she moves on to her next scheme, reviewing a list of wealthy imperial concubines with her attendant, planning her next business venture. With a devilish grin, she praises the well-done list and declares her intention to empty their wallets. Meanwhile, at Prince Yu's mansion, rumors are spreading about the princess's miraculous flowers that can grant beauty, with courtiers recalling how she transformed from an ugly child into a stunning woman. Elsewhere in the bamboo court, Rong Jinting stands stiffly, trying to hide the pain from the previous night's lashing. His subordinate Mr. Rong informs him that his master's letter has been read by Mr. Yuan and that it's time to meet Yuan Kingly. In exchange for his cooperation, Rong Jinting makes a peculiar request. He wants the man to have Yuan Zhen buy some peonies. Mr. Rong smirks, noting Rong Jinting's newfound interest in the princess he once ignored. Rong Jinting confesses that he admires her clear-minded nature, even though she blamed him for a punishment he carried out on her behalf. Yet he reaffirms his unwavering determination to reform the system, his eyes filled with a painful memory as he vows not to miss Xiang Wei again. Mr. Rong cruelly points out that while Rong Jinting is devotedly selling flowers for her, she seems to be chasing after someone else at the Zuage Hotel, even quoting her determined vow to make this other man marry her. The words strike Rong Jinting like a physical blow, his hand clenching into a tight fist of silent rage. At that very hotel, the princess is concluding a business deal with Mr. Yuan, handing him a hefty dividend. When he asks why she remains so cold, she lays out her terms with a challenging smile. She will not be with him without a proper status, tired of belittling herself for a man who won't marry her. She proposes a compromise, a game of seduction involving 3 red flowers, giving him 3 chances for his heart to flip for her. If it flips 3 times, she will return with the flowers and ask him to marry her, a proposal he will have to accept. After he hesitantly agrees to the strange deal, she uses the moment of distraction to expertly snatch a letter from his possession. He accuses her of tricking him, but she plays innocent while reading the letter aloud, her eyes sharpening as she mentions the name Yuan Zhen. She looks up, her gaze piercing, and asks if he knows this person. His shock is palpable. She presses her advantage, asking what he'll promise her if she knows him. He offers anything, though he quickly excludes the red flowers from the deal, much to her amusement. She then reveals the entire tragic story of noble consort Yuan, her discarded daughter, the ungrateful fake son who became emperor, and the sole survivor seeking revenge. Yuan Xiang. Mr. Yuan is stunned into silence by her knowledge, and she triumphantly declares that she no longer wants the flowers but a different promise. With a sly wink, she tells him to look past her face and see into her heart, causing him to blush furiously. Though he denies, his heart flipped. She moves on, revealing she knows about Yuan Zhen's envoy and proposes to take his place. Later, his attendant puzzles over how the princess could possibly know his master's secrets, like his habit of hiding things under the table. While Mr. Yuan gazes at a flower, realizing she is far more mysterious than he ever imagined. Outside, the princess reflects on her past life, recalling how Rong Jinting only realized Yuan Qingli's importance after her death. In this life, she knows Yuan Zhen seeks an alliance with him, and she is determined that Rong Jinting will not be the one to forge it. Her thoughts are interrupted by a frantic servant who rushes to her with terrible news. Mr. Sun is sick, and the princess's face drains of all color, her carefully laid plans suddenly thrown into chaos. Inside the Zuige Hotel, Mr. Yuan levels a calculating gaze at the woman before him, asking if she knows of Yuan Zhen. Her lips curve into a sly smile as she confirms it, coyly asking what he'll promise her if she knows him. He offers her anything, a promise she immediately tests by asking if that includes anything asterisk. Flustered, he clarifies that he can't give her his precious red flowers, a reaction she finds utterly adorable. Having won her little game, she leans in to tell a story, a grim tale of the late emperor's favorite noble consort Yuan. The emperor besotted had promised the throne to her future son, but fate was cruel, giving her 3 daughters in a row. Pregnant again and desperate, she ordered the child to be strangled if it was another girl, but when the baby was born, she couldn't bring herself to kill the smiling infant in her arms. The emperor was told he had a son, who was immediately declared the crown prince, while the real daughter was abandoned in an empty commode. After the emperor's death, that ungrateful son seized the throne and had his own mother and 3 older sisters buried alive in the imperial mausoleum. She then delivers the final, shocking blow. Yuan Zhen is that abandoned girl, and the current emperor is the boy who stole her life. For 2 years, Yuan Zhen has been hiding, plotting to reclaim her mother's honor and make the ungrateful emperor pay with his life. Mr. Yuan is stunned into silence by her knowledge, and she triumphantly declares her victory. She brushes aside the red flowers, stating she wants a different promise from him now. Leaning closer, she playfully teases him, asking if his heart flipped when he looked at her. He sputters a denial, completely flustered. Dropping the act, Xiang Wei gets to the point. She saw a letter saying envoy Yuan Zhen would meet him tomorrow and she wants to take his place. Later, Mr. Yuan denies to his attendant that he made the promise on purpose, leaving them both to wonder how the princess could possibly know his deepest secrets. Holding a flower, Mr. Yuan muses that the mysteries surrounding her only continue to grow. Xiang Wei, however, knows these things because she's lived this life before, a life where her toy boy Rong Jinting allied with her husband. She knows the prophecy that whoever wins over Yuan Qingli gets the throne, and she is determined that this time, it won't be Rong Jinting who succeeds. Suddenly, a maid rushes in with urgent news. Mr. Sun is sick. Xiang Wei finds him not sick, but terrified. He explains that their flower business has received a massive deposit, but they lack the manpower for the picking, sorting, and delivery, a logistical nightmare that could ruin them. He laments that she is still too young and impulsive. Xiang Wei simply asks how many people they need, and when he says at least 100, she confidently declares she'll provide 150. Mr. Sun panics, saying recruiting that many people is like raising an army. But Xiang Wei calmly reveals the people they need are already living in her mansion, an army of freeloading, idle relatives who know the city streets better than anyone. She recounts how these leeches have been bleeding her family dry for years, even stealing her jewelry. The memory triggers a painful flashback to her past life, where a jade belt hook given to her by Rong Jinting, a last resort to save her family, was stolen by those same relatives just before they fled with all the mansion's money. A cold rage settles over her as she vows to deal with them all this time, her intense expression terrifying Mr. Sun. Meanwhile, Rong Jinting learns that Xiang Wei has summoned all the relatives to the Four Seasons parlor. He wonders at her sudden change, questioning if he ever truly knew her in their past life before deciding to witness this new side of her for himself. Xiang Wei faces the jeering crowd, offering them jobs as delivery people. They scoff at her, one demanding she pay his gambling debts instead. She offers them a paltry 5 taels of silver every 2 months, which they mock as beggars' wages. Her smile never wavers as she gives them an ultimatum: work or leave the mansion tomorrow with nothing. An old woman tries to guilt her, but Xiang Wei coldly dismantles her, exposing her son's crimes and the money Prince Yu had to pay to cover them up. She then gives the woman 3 brutal options: be flogged, have her hand chopped off, or get out now. News of Xiang Wei's complete victory reaches her parents, who swell with pride. But their joy turns to tears as they realize their own weakness forced their daughter to become so ruthless, and they decide to hand over control of the mansion to her. Listening from the shadows, Rong Jinting's attendant expresses surprise at Princess Duanking's capability. Rong Jinting coldly dismisses it as having nothing to do with him, though his mind is racing. He is reminded of his master's order. He must not let Prince Yu's mansion know about his meeting with Yuan Qingli tomorrow. He stares into the garden, contemplating just how different Xiang Wei is now. The next day, Xiang Wei arrives for the meeting, only to find Rong Jinting waiting. He claims Mr. Yuan couldn't make it. A flicker of surprise on his face as he realizes her appointment was with his toy boy. Unfazed, Xiang Wei declares he can simply talk to her instead. She knows he would never reveal his plans for rebellion to a mere tool, and she is determined to prevent him from ever allying with Yuan Qingli. But Rong Jinting shatters her composure, revealing he knew she placed the letter in the kitchen. He confesses he came to protect her, to do the things she likes, then grabs her, his voice low and intense, asking why a gentle princess is making a fool of him. He pulls her close, his eyes burning with jealousy as he points out she remembers a wound on his hand but not her own, that she never brought him to a place like this but came for another man. He demands to know if she is that close to him, his voice a possessive whisper as he asks, "Is he that good?" Xiang Wei confronts Rong Jinting, demanding to know why, back then, he took her veil and chose her from the 7 toy boys the princess brought. She presses him against a wall, declaring that his choice must mean he liked her very much. But Rong Jinting's expression turns cold as he questions her logic, asking why she rejects him now that she's been reborn and knows the future. He accuses her of being reluctant to get intimate with him, a familiar intensity flashing in his eyes. Xiang Wei scoffs, dismissing his assumptions by coolly stating that noblewomen pick toy boys like they pick pets, simply to kill time. She tells him he's thinking too much of himself. A sudden panic grips her as she wonders if he thinks she's an underling of Yuan Zhen, and she feels an urgent need to clarify her position. She declares she came on behalf of Mr. Yuan and has nothing to do with anyone else, adding that it's a pity she took Rong into her mansion before meeting Mr. Yuan, a man she claims she's always liked. Her words trigger something dark in him and he violently grabs her wrist. With a chilling quietness, he asks if it's really a pity that she met him first and whether she liked Mr. Yuan more in their previous life as well. Before the confrontation can escalate, a servant reports that the letter for Miss Yuan was returned. The recipient had a message. There was no Miss Yuan, only a Mrs. Yuan. Rong Jinting's lips curl into a cruel smile as he mocks her eagerness to marry another. His fury finally erupts as he slams the table, roaring that it truly is a pity she met him before Yuan Qingli. He pins her down, his eyes blazing with possessive rage. He threatens to tell Yuan Qingli that she's a married woman, that he has slept with her, and that she can't be intimate with another man. Pushed too far, Xiang Wei's shock turns to fury and she slaps him hard across the face. She screams that he's no match for Yuan Qingli and that he, Rong Jinting, is the person she hates most in the world before storming out. He is left alone, clutching his hand, her words echoing in his mind as a dark, twisted smile forms on his face. In her carriage, Xiang Wei kicks the wall in a fit of rage, wondering why he would pretend to care about her. The carriage lurches to a sudden halt, and though her maid pleads for her to restrain herself, Xiang Wei knows she didn't kick it that time. Outside, a massive crowd has gathered because the Ying state has been defeated, and its hostages are being paraded through the streets. Xiang Wei's eyes lock onto a lone figure in a cage, a man with blonde hair. The crowd buzzes with fear and hatred, identifying him as the Ghost Rider, a monster who once slaughtered 100 men and left only one survivor. A man hurls a tomato at the prisoner, screaming that he'd recognize him even if he were cut into pieces. The tomato splatters against the cage bars, but the Ghost Rider calmly picks it up, takes a bite, and smirks, remarking on how sweet it is. His crimson eyes meet Xiang Wei's and she freezes, the sight of him triggering a phantom pain. She remembers him all too well, she Jeshu. Back at the mansion, Rong Jinting finds her maid, Chung Qiao, sitting outside. Chung Qiao informs him that the princess went to bed as soon as she returned at 6 p.m., not even eating dinner. Rong Jinting's face fills with concern and he decides to check on her. He dismisses Chung Qiao's protests, promising to just sit on a stool and watch over her. He quietly enters her room and watches as she sleeps fitfully, trapped in a nightmare. She clutches her sheets, her face contorted in terror. Tossing and turning violently, she rolls right off the side of the bed. In a flash, Rong Jinting lunges forward, catching her just before she hits the ground. She clings to him in her sleep, completely unaware. He holds her gently, his expression softening as he wonders if her nightmare is because of him. He whispers an apology, hoping that his presence will help her sleep better. He carries her back to the bed and lies down beside her, holding her protectively. As she finally sleeps peacefully in his arms, he leans down and places a gentle kiss on her forehead. The next morning, he leaves her sleeping soundly, instructing the maid not to disturb her. When Xiang Wei finally awakens, she feels strangely rested. She calls for Chung Qiao, her mind racing as she tries to understand Rong Jinting's actions. His sudden dedication seems completely out of character, and a terrifying, unbelievable thought begins to form in her mind. She shakes her head in denial, but the question lingers, could he have really fallen for her? A month is all it took for Yuan Xiang Wei to seize absolute control. Her maid marvels at her prowess, noting that no one in the mansion dares to oppose her now, but Xiang Wei knows better. A sly smile playing on her lips as she thinks their obedience is merely for show. Today is payday, the perfect time to test her new system. She questions the servants about their tasks, but a group immediately starts making excuses. A sick husband, a sick child, crops that can't be neglected. Unmoved, Xiang Wei coolly explains the new rules. Pay is calculated based on bamboo sticks earned for completed work. Those without sticks won't get paid and will even have to reimburse the mansion for their food, because she has no intention of keeping freeloaders. The slackers erupt in fury, shouting that other princes' mansions pay a fixed salary and threatening to sue her for being a joke. Xiang Wei cuts them off with a chilling gaze, her voice dripping with authority as she declares she isn't finished yet. She announces that those who worked hard, covering for their lazy partners, will be handsomely rewarded with extra pay for their extra work. As for the excuses, she'll let it slide if their stories are true, but a reward awaits anyone who can provide proof of their lies. And for those who dared to threaten her, she offers an even bigger reward to anyone who can dig up evidence of their crimes. She assures them she won't skimp on a single penny, but the money will go to the deserving, leaving the slackers to sweat under the greedy eyes of their peers. Overwhelmed with admiration, Mr. Sun falls to his knees. Xiang Wei tells him to rise, reminding him that this system of merit-based distribution was his idea. He laments that he lacks her forcefulness, his talent wasted by his timid nature. Xiang Wei sees an opportunity, grabbing his arm and telling him he can learn from her. She declares him her right hand, the only one she trusts, and commands him to become brave for her sake. Her words light a fire in him, and as he walks away, her maid notes he looks like a soldier marching to battle. The maid then delivers a message that sours Xiang Wei's mood. The Princess Royal has invited her to a banquet and she must bring Mr. Wrong. Xiang Wei groans in frustration, wanting to go alone but recalling the princess's threat to cry if she didn't comply. Reluctantly, she heads to Bamboo Court to find Wrong. When she tells him about the banquet, he panics, grabbing her and asking if she plans to return him. He declares that he belongs to her for life and she can't send him back, leaving Xiang Wei utterly baffled. At the Princess Royal's mansion, Xiang Wei struggles to hide her amusement at Wrong's docile behavior. The princess notices her laughter, asking if her arrangements are funny. She explains that she's gathered her 7 toy boys for a reunion since Xiang Wei took one, and generously offers her any of the others she fancies. A dejected Wrong offers Xiang Wei a bowl of peeled grapes. Internally, Xiang Wei finds it hilarious that the proud man is so terrified of being sent back that he'd wear revealing clothes and act so subservient. She bursts into laughter and an embarrassed Wrong demands she stop. The princess remarks that Xiang Wei is quite the tamer, seeing how diligently Wrong serves her while her own men laze about. She then leans in, pointing out that the way Wrong looks at her has exposed his true feelings. The thought gives Xiang Wei pause. Could the future ruthless regent really have fallen for her? She doubts he'd abandon his ambitions for simple feelings. She glances over to find him staring at her with an unnerving intensity. The princess announces that the ice pool is ready, a luxurious bath cooled by a magical stone, and tells Xiang Wei to pick a man to serve her. With a sly smile, Xiang Wei looks at Wrong and tells him he must be tired and should take a break, pointedly choosing another man. Later, as she soaks in the jade spring, she orders a servant to keep an eye on Wrong Jinting. She muses that if forced to choose between insight and wealth, she'd always pick wealth. Suddenly, the door creaks open. She coldly tells the intruder to put down the items and get out, stating she doesn't need to be served. But as the servant sets down the tray, a hand firmly grabs her own. Enraged, Xiang Wei whips around, demanding to know who dares touch her. It's Wrong who explains the man she chose fell ill, so he came in his stead. Xiang Wei's eyes narrow with suspicion, asking if Gui is dead. A wounded look crosses Wrong's face as he asks if she truly sees him as such a ruthless monster. She reflects on her past life, remembering how he cheated her and led her to ruin. She can't trust him, not yet. She needs to test whether his affection is real or just another ploy. After he finishes massaging her back, she turns with a wicked grin, telling him he hasn't massaged her front body yet. When he asks how, she leans in close, taunting him about whether he learned such skills before coming to her. Pushed to his limit, he finally agrees. But just as he's committed, she suddenly pulls back, declaring she's no longer in the mood and wants wine instead. Wrong is left flustered and aroused, protesting that she turned him on only to send him away. He offers to serve her while someone else fetches the wine, but she is firm. She wants him to go now. Defeated and blushing furiously, Rong concedes, asking for just a moment to compose himself. Princess Duan smirks to herself in the spring, realizing with a cold satisfaction that Xiang Wei's physical reaction doesn't lie. He was actually turned on by her. A treacherous man she could handle, but one who falls for her is a different story entirely, a weakness she can exploit. A cruel laugh escapes her lips as she relishes the thought of karma. In her past life, she gave him everything and lost her family for it. Now it is his turn to suffer. Relaxing with the Princess Royal, she's asked about the cool spring. Her friend chastises her, pointing out that Xiang Wei is just a toy boy who overstepped his bounds by serving Duan himself. She sighs that they act more like a husband and wife than a master and servant, insisting that a misbehaving toy boy must be punished. Duan scoffs, coolly stating she has no desire for him to be her husband. Her friend cheers at this and calls for her wine from the ice cellar. A moment later, a man in dark blue robes approaches with the wine, presenting it to Princess Duan. Her eyes widen in pure terror as she recognizes him. She Jeshu, her living nightmare. Her entire body seizes with fear, and she frantically tells herself to breathe, reminding herself that in this life she's never met him. With a trembling hand, she accidentally lets the mellow wine slip, feigning regret over the waste. She uses the spill as a perfect excuse to escape, asking for a room to change her clothes, all while she Jeshu watches her with an unnervingly sharp gaze. In the new room, her maid Chung Kiao notes her missing jade pendant and offers to run back to the gazebo to retrieve it. Duan tries to stop her, but the loyal maid insists it will only take a moment and rushes out. Annoyed, Duan decides to just leave without it. But as she turns, she finds her path blocked. Jashu stands there, a predatory smile on his face, stating that she is indeed afraid of him. He corners her, noting that a famous beauty like her is unforgettable, yet they've never met before, so why the fear? He grabs a ribbon from her dress, his eyes glinting as he demands she tell him why. Thinking fast, Duan claims she saw him last month on Juke Avenue, locked in a cage, and heard the whispers calling him the Ghost Rider. She lies, claiming she is afraid of blood, death, and war, and his reputation for killing precedes him. He leans closer, his voice a low whisper, telling her not to be afraid, as he always treats beautiful ladies in a special way. As she finally leaves, he reveals the jade pendant in his hand, musing that she's like a useless plant with nothing but a pretty face. With a sneer of contempt, he crushes the jade in his palm, revealing his true feelings. He hates beautiful ladies most of all. Later, back in her carriage, Duan shivers as her maids fuss over her, believing she caught a cold. Xiang Wei enters, and Chung Kiao immediately scolds him for not serving her highness properly. Duan waves it off and sends Chung Kiao for medicine. Alone with him, Xiang Wei observes that she seems anxious. He softly asks if her nightmares are troubling her again, explaining that he's been avoiding her for a month, fearing his presence made her sleep worse. He then presents her with a sachet from a monk, its pleasant scent meant to help her rest. She is stunned, realizing he has been genuinely worried about her. He confesses that his real fear isn't her hating him, but being unable to do anything while she suffers in her nightmares. She clutches the sachet, a wave of complex emotions washing over her. Later, as Chung Kiao brushes her hair, Duan stares at the sachet in disbelief, wondering how she received something now that she only got years later in her previous life. The memory floods back. The years with Jeshu were a living nightmare, and even with her then-husband Yuan Qingli's gentle care, she couldn't sleep. He grew so worried he sought a cure, and soon a sachet was sent to him. She remembers the scent, the exact same one, and the horrifying truth dawns on her. It was from Xiang Wei all along. That night, chaos erupts as intruders attack their camp. Duan and her maid are frozen with fear. Suddenly, Jeshu thunders in on horseback, grabbing her and ordering her to get on. She cries out that she doesn't know how to ride a horse, but he callously tells her to die there then and rides away, abandoning her. Watching him leave, she is left in shock and despair. Taking charge, she instructs her maid to help her onto the horse first. They struggle, but she slips and falls to the ground. Sobbing, she begs for help, promising she'll learn to ride if they don't leave her. Stealing her resolve, she decides she must get on the horse this time. As her maid helps her again, a cry of warning rings out. Duan turns just in time to see an attacker raising his sword to strike her down. In that split second, she thinks she is going to die. A deafening clang shatters the air as Jeshu's blade intercepts the blow, sending blood spraying everywhere. He returned for her. He pulls her into his arms, blood splattering across her face, and lets out a wild laugh. He declares that she is his hard-won beauty and he won't watch her get killed. He then commands his men to grab her maid before they leave. Seething with rage in his grasp, Duan wonders why she ever married a man who would risk lives for his own amusement. Fueled by pure hatred, she bites down hard on his shoulder. To her shock, he only laughs, his voice filled with manic delight as he exclaims that was well done, proclaiming to the world, "That's my woman." Xiang Wei jolts awake, the phantom sensation of blood on her hands still fresh in her mind as a single bitter lesson from her past life crystallizes. She can never rely on men again. This new life would be different, starting today with collecting a final payment. In the meeting hall, her staff frets over the difficult task of collecting the remaining 30%, noting amongst themselves that Her Highness seems even scarier than before. They whine that it's easy for her to command them, but they're the ones who face the deadbeats. Xiang Wei silences them with a cold gaze, reminding them of the old rules: more pay for more work. But before they can protest further, her aide, Mr. Sun, steps forward to reveal her new, insane incentive. She will only take 10% of the final payment, leaving the remaining 20% as a reward for them. The room erupts in disbelief. It's a chance to make a fortune. 30 minutes later, fueled by greed and opportunity, the entire staff rushes out the door, ready to strong-arm every last debtor in the city. Alone with Mr. Sun, Xiang Wei sips her tea as he comments on how much she's changed. He nervously fumbles, worried he made a fool of himself, but she reassures him he did a good job. But Mr. Sun is sharper than he lets on. He reveals his calculations, showing that the entire peony business is operating at a massive loss. He looks at her, the single, inescapable conclusion dawning on him. She never intended to make money from selling flowers at all. Xiang Wei's lips curve into a knowing smile, confirming his theory. He compares her strategy to a Western phenomenon known as the tulip bubble. Elsewhere, her young friend whines about hating her studies and begs to go out and have fun. But Xiang Wei coolly declines, mentioning that today's lesson is so interesting that even her parents, Prince Yu and Princess Consort Yu, are in attendance. Her friend is shocked, wondering what lesson could possibly be so important. The teacher enters, and it's none other than Mr. Sun, who begins a fascinating lecture on the very tulip bubble he mentioned earlier. He explains how the value of a single flower once skyrocketed until it could be traded for a large house. Stunning the audience, he clarifies that the flower itself was worthless. Its value came from the collective belief that its price would endlessly rise, turning it into a symbol. Prince Yu points out the flaw, asking how this could work in a society where most people can't even afford food. But Mr. Sun counters that once people are convinced they can make a fortune, the potential profit becomes incalculable. It all clicks for Xiang Wei's friend, who realizes with a gasp that Xiang Wei is the architect behind all the recent rumors about making fortunes selling flowers. With a cunning glint in her eyes, Xiang Wei admits it was her, explaining she used the 20% reward as bait to start the frenzy. The trap has been set, and now she just needs to wait for the greedy to walk into it. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a red-eyed prince seethes with rage over being treated like a servant, vowing to kill a certain Yuan Hua when his plans come to fruition. His subordinate reports on the latest gossip. Princess Duaning's business venture has inspired a wave of copycats trying to sell chrysanthemums, much to the amusement of the aristocracy. The prince's interest is piqued, and he asks which Princess Duaning his man is talking about. The subordinate reminds him of her triumph at the peony banquet, explaining that stories about her are flooding the streets. The prince looks out the window just as Xiang Wei and her family walk by below. A slow, dangerous smile spreads across his face as he finds the situation incredibly interesting. He clarifies that he only hates delicate and meek women. This one, he realizes, is a pretty eagle disguised as a small sparrow. With a flick of his wrist, he sends a nut flying towards her, only for Prince Yu to snatch it out of the air with blinding speed. The two men lock eyes in a silent, tense standoff. Xiang Wei asks what's wrong, but Prince Yu just says it's nothing, his expression cold. Back at the mansion, Xiang Wei's uncle, the avaricious Prince Xian, confronts her parents, demanding a share of her recent profits. Her mother tries to downplay her success, but he scoffs, revealing he knows she's bought up nearly half the shops on Duke Avenue. He then suggests Xiang Wei should be married off so he can take care of her peony business for her. Just as her mother's temper flares, Xiang Wei bursts in, bearing gifts for her parents and completely ignoring her uncle. Prince Xian slams his hand on the table, demanding respect. But Xiang Wei plays dumb, asking who he is. After a pointed introduction, she offers a fake apology and casually remarks that she didn't see his name on her 18th birthday guest list, then asks with a saccharine smile if he came without a gift, essentially calling him a freeloader. Prince Xian, utterly humiliated as her parents stifle their laughter, seethes with rage. He storms out, vowing that they will regret this day. Her mother worries he will seek revenge, but Xiang Wei's eyes gleam with cold satisfaction. That's exactly what she wants. A dark memory surfaces of her past life, where this same uncle gloated over her family's ruin, stealing their possessions and ordering her mother whipped. But this time will be different. This time she will not only humiliate him, she will make him utterly and completely broke. At the bamboo court, whispers follow Xiang Wei's hurried return, speculating that she's rushed back solely to meet Prince Xian. a notion that brings a cold, calculating look to Rong Jinting's eyes. An aide leans in, confirming his suspicions with a few hushed words, and a cruel smirk twists Rong Jinting's lips. He muses that Yuan Zhen must feel the Dao state has a surplus of princes, and since Prince Xian is the eldest, it's only fair to start the culling with him. As he turns to leave, his attendant desperately calls out, pleading for him to stay, and revealing that Her Highness bought him a gift, a clear sign that she truly cares for him. This news momentarily halts Rong Jinting, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes, as the attendant eagerly presents a wooden box. But the moment he opens it, his expression transforms into one of pure, unadulterated rage, his hands trembling as he demands to know what this insult is. Elsewhere, Xiang Wei confirms with her maid that a jade pendant has been delivered to Rong Jinting, coldly stating it's merely a return gift to settle a debt, ensuring she owes him nothing. Later, she stirs from her sleep, a strange warmth pressing against her, something soft and elastic that feels disturbingly like a man's chest. Her eyes fly open in horror to find Rong Jinting looming over her in her own bed. A silent scream builds in her throat as she imagines the terror of waking up to a strange man staring at you. And she erupts, demanding to know who allowed him to defile her bed at midnight. Unfazed, Rong Jinting leans closer, his robe agape, and coolly suggests she wanted him there all along, otherwise she wouldn't have given him such an invitation. When she asks what he means, he reveals the gift, a jade dildo, leaving Xiang Wei absolutely speechless with shock and mortification. The scene flashes back to several days prior, where the scheming Princess Royal asked Xiang Wei for a favor, coyly explaining she has many toy boys and needs something from the Linlang Jade House to help them have fun. She had manipulated Xiang Wei into retrieving the scandalous item without ever explaining its true purpose. Back in the present, Rong Jinting pins her down, his voice low as he questions how she knows the name of such an object when she's clearly never used it. The memory of another newlywed couple, Mr. Yuan and his wife, sorting through wedding gift surfaces. His innocent bride had picked up a similar jade item, wondering aloud if it was a very thick hairpin. Mr. Yuan had completely lost his composure, screaming for her to drop the filthy thing. After her persistent pleading, a blushing Mr. Yuan had finally explained its true name and purpose. Cornered by Rong Jinting's intense gaze, Xiang Wei panics, unable to admit she learned the term from Yuan Qingli, and instead blurts out that it was the Princess Royal who told her. Rong Jinting freezes, his mind racing with scandalous possibilities about her and the princess. And in that moment of stunned silence, Xiang Wei attacks. With a brutal crack, she drives her knee into his groin, sending him doubling over in agony. She scrambles back, frantically trying to explain she was just an errand girl for the princess, and demands to know why he's so jealous. Seeing him tremble, she worriedly asks if she broke it and offers to check the damage. But he flatly refuses. When she suggests calling a doctor, he begs her not to. In a pathetic, pained voice, he pleads that if anyone found out, they'd see him as a useless toy boy who's lost her favor, begging her not to abandon him.